Thank you for joining me today for another basic differentiation rule. We want to talk about today the sum or difference rules. So in this instance, we have a sum or a difference of two different functions. And we want to be able to find the derivative of that sum or difference. The way we do that is we find the derivative of the first function and the derivative of the second function separately, and then either add or subtract them, whichever is appropriate. Now that we have the sum and difference rules, we can actually combine those rules with the previous rules that you've learned and actually take the derivatives of lots of different functions. So for example, let's suppose we have a function h, and that function is 4x to the 12th power minus 9x plus 1. We want to be able to find the derivative of this function. Well, you'll notice that it is a sum of two functions, and it's also a difference of two functions. And the sum and difference rules allow us to take the derivatives of each individual term and then add them or subtract them, whichever is appropriate. So for this first one here, there are two rules that are also being used for the first term. The first one is that we have a constant multiplier, so we have to use the constant multiple rule. And the constant multiple rule says that that constant multiple becomes part of the derivative itself. We're also going to use the power rule on the x to the 12th power. So the power rule tells me to take the derivative of x to the 12th power. The 12 becomes a constant multiplier, and I decrease the power by 1. Then the sum and difference rules kick in, and I can subtract the derivative of the next term. The derivative of 9x may seem a little bit unusual to start off with, but it's actually the same rules that are being applied to the first term. The derivative of something with a constant multiplier allows me to put the constant multiplier down as part of the derivative. And the x is actually x to the 1 power. So I'm going to use the rules for x to a power. The 1 becomes something that I multiply by, and I decrease the power by 1 to a 0. X to the 0 power is 1, so it's going to look like the x disappears. And the derivative of a constant number is 0. So I can simplify this a bit by multiplying the 4 and the 12, and seeing here that x to the 0 power is 1. Thank you very much for joining me, and remember, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.